Hey, what's going on, guys? Brian from Zombie Guitar here. This is part 4 of the Soloing with 7th Arpeggio series. Okay, so as I keep saying in all these videos, if you don't understand anything or if I'm going too fast about what a 7th is and what an arpeggio is and how it applies to a particular key, go back and look at part 1. That's where I explain most of the theory. In addition to that, I also link you to any relevant lessons that may be stuff that you need to know for this particular concept that we're talking about in this series. Okay, so check those things out. Also take a look at my lead guitar improv course. I'm constantly adding more and more stuff to that. I just started doing a solo analysis section in that course where I go and I analyze other people's solos, popular solos. I've been adding about 2 to 3 new solos each week to that section, so that I also linked you to below. That's the lead guitar improv course. So take a look at that. But with that said, this part here, we're going to look at our E-shaped arpeggios, okay? So an E shape is just simply a bar chord rooted on the low E string. Okay, so if you wanted to look at a major chord, a major bar chord rooted on the low E string, say you wanted to do a C major chord, it would look like this. Okay, so you could also call that the E shape. That's the C major chord in the E shape. Alright, if you wanted to do a minor chord in that shape, say you wanted to do an A minor chord, you could do this. Again, that would be called the E shape, or you could call it the E minor shape. But basically these are the shapes we're going to be looking at, and we're going to be making arpeggios out of them and adding the 7th in there. Alright? So, the first thing you want to do, let's start out with our major arpeggio shapes, okay? So, if you were to just play a major arpeggio using this E shape, it would look like this. And you can even come up here and play this note as well. Okay, so that's your major arpeggio shape, not yet adding the 7ths. Okay, so within this shape, you want to go ahead and you want to locate where your root notes are, okay? So your root notes in this shape are always going to be located right where your first finger would be on the low E string. And then on the D string, 2 frets higher. And then back up on the E string on the high E string again. So that's where your roots are located in this particular shape. Okay, so that's where your roots are located. So if you wanted to make this shape into a 7th arpeggio, you would just add, or a major 7th arpeggio, let's start with a major 7th. If you wanted to make a major 7th arpeggio out of this, you could add the 7th degree right before the root, 1/2 step before the root. Okay, so since we're going to be starting this particular shape from the root, we're not going to go ahead and add in our major 7th down here, although you can, but we're not going to for this particular part of the series. So we're just going to add in our 7th here, okay, 1/2 step below the root on the D string. Alright, and then you can also find that same note here, okay, because the same note on the D string is always found 3 frets higher on the B string, okay, so. Alright, so those are the 2 major 7ths we're going to be adding. So, going and playing this arpeggio now, you have your root, your 3rd, your 5th, your major 7 scale degree, your root, 3rd, 5th, major 7, root, and then your 3rd is up here as well. Okay, so that's your major 7th arpeggio shape in the E shape. The next thing is going to be your dominant 7th arpeggio. Alright, so a dominant seventh adds in the seventh scale degree, which is one whole step below the root. Okay, so starting back with our major arpeggio shape again. Since we're going to be starting this shape from our root on the low E string, we're not going to add in the seventh down here, although you can. It is a note available to you for improvisational purposes and whatnot, but we're going to start here. Okay, so starting here, here would be your next root on the D string. One whole step lower would be your seventh scale degree right here. Okay, and then also the same note is also found on the B string, 3 frets up. Okay, so those are your dominant seventh scale degrees. Okay, so playing this dominant seventh arpeggio would sound like this. Okay, so you have your root, your third, your fifth, your flat 7 or dominant 7 scale degree, your root, your third, your fifth, flat 7, root, third. Okay, so that's your dominant 7th arpeggio. So the last one we have is our minor 7th arpeggio. So our minor 7th arpeggio, we would start out by first looking at just the minor arpeggio without the 7th. Okay, so this is our, we'll do the A minor for this one. So you're just going to look at your minor arpeggio, which would look like this. Okay, so that's your minor arpeggio. Then if you want to go ahead and add in your 7th to make it a minor 7th chord, a minor 7th chord contains a flat 7 scale degree again. So it's a minor triad or minor arpeggio with a flat 7 scale degree. So we can add in our 7th again in the same spot. Well, here's your root right here. One whole step below that would be your flat 7 scale degree. And you can find your flat 7 there. And you can also find it 3 frets higher on the B string, same note. Okay, so there's your 7th scale degrees for this particular shape. So you can go ahead and play that and it would sound like this. So you have your root, your minor 3rd, 5th, your flat 7, your root, your minor 3rd, 5th, flat 7, root, and then your minor 3rd up here again. Okay, so you have your 3 different, your major 7, your dominant 7, and your minor 7 arpeggios using this E shape. Okay, so now we're just going to walk up the fretboard and do the 6 diatonic arpeggios for the key of C major, just like we did for the first 3 parts, and then we'll finish up the video. Okay, so I'm just going to start here on this C area, starting on the 8th fret of the low E string, and I'm just going to walk up until I get to the A minor chord. You could also come down here and play some of these arpeggios, since everything that's up here is also found down here an octave lower. But just for the sake of keeping things in a chronological order, you know, increasing like that, I'm just going to do the higher versions of these arpeggios. Okay, so the first one, your 1 chord is always a major 7 chord, so you have a C major 7. And then your 2 chord is always a minor 7, D minor 7. And then your 3 chord is a minor 7, so this is E minor 7. Okay, E minor 7. Your 4 chord is always a major 7, so you have F major 7. Okay, so that's your 4 chord. Then your 5 chord is always a dominant 7, so you have a G dominant 7 chord. Okay, so that's your 5 chord, your G dominant 7 chord. And then The last one, the 6th chord, is the A minor chord, so that would be a minor 7th. Your 6th chord is always a minor 7. Okay, so that's your 6th chord, minor 7. And then, as I said, we're not looking at the 7 chord or the 7 arpeggio in this series, okay? Because that's a half diminished arpeggio, diminished and half diminished. That's for a future series, okay? So we're just looking at the first 6 diatonic arpeggios in the series. Okay, so those are your E-shape arpeggios for the key of C major, all right? Keep in mind that when I'm doing the demonstrations in the beginning, you're not always going to want to be jumping around so much, okay? I'm just kind of showing you applying each particular E-shape arpeggio over the chord as it's occurring. But as we get through the series, after we get through all 5 different shapes, starting from part 6, we're going to be looking at how to play these arpeggios in just one area, okay? Or one area at a time. That way you don't have to keep jumping around so much, because it doesn't always sound good. I mean, it's always an option. You can jump around and play an arpeggio over each chord down the fretboard, but it's a lot more efficient to play in just one area at a time. So as we get to the higher parts of the series, that's what we're going to be looking at, okay? But just for the purposes of this part 4, we looked at the E-shape arpeggios. We looked at major 7, dominant 7, and minor 7 in the E-shape, okay? So I will see you at part 5. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Check out my website, use the contact form through my website, or just contact me on just comments and whatnot. All right, so thanks for watching.